Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bad Lit Friends, the writing podcast that still barely knows what it's doing. I'm your host, Kirk Rafferty, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Megan Thompson-Mann. And this week, we are diving into a very filthy pool. Heads up, this entire episode needs a content warning. So if you are sensitive to racism, sexism, sexual harassment and abuse, homophobia, transphobia, and much, much more, you might want to skip this one. We have 44 other full episodes and 2 bonus episodes that you might want to listen to, because this week we are talking about whether or not you can separate a problematic writer from their works. The old, can you separate the art from the artist question.
Yeah.
I know you come to BLF for our sparkling wit, our, unbelievable repartee, which we may still have, but we've decided
It's unbelievable, yes.
it's going to be great. It's going to be great. But we thought, as America moves into its 250th birthday weekend, what better topic than how terrible people can be to other people while still being artists, in particular, writers.
Yeah, we could actually subtitle this episode, People Suck.
Yeah.
But we could subtitle most of our episodes with People Suck, because they just do.
People suck, capitalism sucks. But then, no capitalism without people. How many penguins do you see promoting capitalism that aren't in those books that those poor TikTok authors were trying to push with their empty boxes of books? Very few.
Yeah, you see none, because penguins are filthy communists. We
They
know
are,
that.
absolutely. So before we dive into this great morass, how's your writing going, Kirk?
Writing is actually going really good. So, after I had a couple weeks off, just, being contagious and everything, I have gotten back into it. I've actually finished my first draft. I am finished,
Yay!
and I'm now editing. I actually have an editor that I've tapped that is going to do a developmental edit for me. I'm not quite ready for that yet, but I am going hot and heavy on the edits now. This is my third completed novel. Now I have a lot of uncompleted novels, but this will be like this has a beginning, middle, and end, and I'm just kind of polishing now. I might actually add a couple more chapters to it. I saw some gaps where I think I could fill in, but yeah. So my writing is actually going really well. Yeah, how's yours going?
Pretty good. So I'd had 2 weeks off of writing because of wedding-related stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I sat down and, read the last couple of chapters I wrote, and I was like, "Wow, who wrote this? Not me."
Does your husband not let you write now?
It's my husband. Yes, yes. Bad. Lady writers. No, I had some problems on the Saturday, kinda, like, getting back into the flow of writing, like, how
Yeah,
how how
been there.
how does this work? Like, put fingers on keyboard, but brain no work. But Sunday was extremely productive, powered through, finished a chapter. I am either on my last chapter or my second to last chapter. I've had some very long chapters at the end of this book, so I probably will kind of move them around. But this is kind of it. I'm about to wrap it up, and I may very well hit that 4th of July weekend target that I set for myself. That is later than my birthday in early June target that I set for myself, which is later than my Memorial Day target that I set for myself. But that's okay. It's all good. And I
Yeah,
will
sure.
I will not have a 144,000 word manuscript to pare down this time. I probably will have around 100,000 words, with the aim of getting down to about, I don't know, like 73. So we shall see, but all systems are go. Feeling pretty good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Looking forward to editing this, Kirk. You'll be very glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm already having ideas about editing this book. So very good. Yeah.
Excellent. Be one
Yeah.
of us.
Never. So this week's topic: separating art from artists. We are all human, or most of us are, and we all make mistakes. Some of those mistakes are bigger than others. Sometimes we learn from our mistakes, and sometimes, look, if you're on social media, you have seen people double down. But the question is, when it comes to authors, can you ever really separate their life from their work, and would you even want to?
Mhm.
That's kind of the big open question here. This could run long. We'll see how disciplined we are. I pared down my big list to like 5, maybe 6. There were more. Many more. Many more. So, to you, what does separating art from the artist mean? And why is that so slippery?
Yeah, it's tough because sometimes I feel like sometimes you can separate the art from the artist and just sometimes you can't. And it's all in a matter of degrees. And and I also think there's a really important component of time.
Mhm.
So, if there's a somebody in the, 1930s that wrote a really good book, but they were a very problematic person, this person has really not influenced anything modern or anything like that, so, you might be able to read their book or look at their painting or whatever art they accomplished, right? But if you look at a I'm actually
Say her name. Just go
I'm
ahead
gonna
and say her
spoil it,
name.
yep. So if you look at somebody like J.K. Rowling, who has not only said some problematic things, in our lifetime, but continues to say extremely problematic things, and I'm being diplomatic here because
Very.
what they are is gross and filthy, disgusting things that she continues to say on a daily and weekly basis. It is, for me, I think I can speak for you as well, very difficult, at this point for me, impossible to separate the artist from her art. So I can acknowledge that Harry Potter, I enjoyed the book. I think I read 3 of them. What are there, 5? I think there's 5.
7, I think.
Oh, 7. I don't
Yeah.
know. I stopped after 3 just because I was moving on to other books. I enjoyed the hell out of those books. So, no shade on her craft, but I cannot ever envision myself sitting down and reading a Harry Potter book again or watching a Harry Potter movie or, HBO is now coming out with a series. I absolutely will not watch that. I cannot do it.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna come at me and say, "Oh, you have to Harry Potter's great, you have to separate the art
Yeah.
from the artist." Intellectually, I get it, but it just doesn't work for me. I am disgusted by her, and so her art is too associated with her for me to let that go.
I you know, we're gonna talk about her more in a moment, but I
Mhm.
100% agree with everything you said, and even more than her speech, or in tandem with her speech, let's say. She is putting her money where her mouth is, and she
Yeah,
is
yeah.
actively making the world worse.
Mhm, mhm.
She is
Particularly the UK. Yeah,
particularly the UK. Now, on the other hand, for example, Agatha Christie, who has a book which its original title I will not say because I wouldn't say it in my
right.
yep, it's now known as And Then There Were None.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, it's the story is a cracker, and it doesn't need the title. It doesn't lose anything by losing the title,
right.
but it's also worthwhile understanding that it originally had something totally different and that it was a consequence of her being a white woman in Britain of a certain class at a certain
Mhm,
time.
mhm.
It doesn't actually feed into the plot
At
at
all,
all.
yeah, it's a figurine, right? Is that
Yeah,
am I remembering
yeah,
it's like a
and it
figurine sitting on a mantelpiece
yeah,
or something that
and
yeah,
also just the nursery rhyme, which I grew up
yes,
as something totally different, which also now you probably wouldn't say,
right, right, mhm,
but it is significantly less offensive than to me than I'll be honest, like the N word. But now I understand because I'm older and I've also listened to plenty of people that it's offensive to refer to native people as Indians in this country.
mhm,
Look, I
mhm,
mean, sorry, I grew up in the 70s. That's what people called it. I now know that in this modern era, I would never do that again
Sure.
because I
Because
understand
you're an adult and
I'm an
you
adult.
learn from your
It's
experiences and
yeah.
you learn as social norms change, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just that it's offensive to other people that I've changed it. It is now offensive to me.
Right, right. Mhm.
So this is part of growing up and being a part of society and being a functional member of society and a community. So I see a real difference between somebody like Agatha Christie and somebody like J.K. Rowling. And not just because one is
Yeah.
alive and one is dead. This is a huge scale, and that scale like is not a linear scale. It goes off, shoots off in different directions, and you know, it's
And we are intentionally, taking 2 extremes of the
Mhm.
spectrum, right? Just to for illustrative purposes,
Yes.
because I think we both understand that as you start getting closer, nuance starts to matter, and that, there are points that you go, "Should I separate this artist from their art?" That's
Yeah.
tough, right?
Yeah.
There are, musical artists, for example,
My
who
god.
I freaking dig their stuff, and I understand that that they're kinda pieces of shit.
So it I talked about this during my wedding, when I'm talking to the photographers, but they were into the same kind of music as Shane and me, which is awesome. And we were talking about our problems with the Smiths. I have a huge problem with Morrissey, who meant
Mhm,
a lot to me as a
mhm.
kid, so much to me. The Smiths meant everything to me well into my 20s. And, so many moments of my life, the Smiths were there, just woven in. And then I always knew Morrissey was an asshole, but then he started talking and talking and I mean, he's always had a big mouth. But he said worse and worse and worse racist things, xenophobic things. And I stopped listening to the Smiths for 4 years, which was so
Isn't
hard
that
for
tough?
me. It
Yeah.
was then I thought about it and I said, "You know what? You know who's a really good human being? Johnny Marr is a beautiful person. Nobody
Mhm.
has anything bad to say about him. They all say what a wonderful person he is to work with, kind, professional, giving, creative." And I thought, okay, I'm not gonna listen to solo stuff by Morrissey anymore, but how much am I hurting the world by ensuring that money goes to Mike Joyce and Johnny Marr by not listening to them? I'm like, "You know what? They're great. Those are 2 good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what am I doing? I'm playing music I already own." And that's a question too, like, what do you do about books, music
Sure, sure.
that you already own? Do you stop consuming after you've already put that money into, the stream of commerce? What does it do? And there's been a lot of discussion on Instagram and Threads. You and I talked the other week about the person who had Mein Kampf in their TBR pile.
Mhm,
There
mhm.
are a lot of Instagram posts where there's Harry Potter, extremely high, like sorry, Harry not Harry Potter extremely high. That would be very funny. But there's a stack of Harry Potter books. And so if that person has owned them since they came out before we knew all of this, is it okay for them to display it? There's certainly discourse that says if you post pictures of them, you are promoting them online to people who may
Yeah,
otherwise
yeah.
not have read them.
And that is more nuanced conversation, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a hard one.
for me personally, I think I actually still have my Harry Potter books somewhere. They don't even sit on a bookshelf anymore. I think they're probably in a box somewhere. I for me personally, I don't think I'd put them on my shelf. I definitely wouldn't put them in an Instagram post.
God, no.
But
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't know. So, it's all degrees, right? So if somebody's doing an Instagram video or something and their bookshelf is behind them and there happens to be a Harry Potter book on it, but they're talking about something that is not relevant to that, I mean, okay, whatever. On the other hand, if they're slavishly, saying what a great person J.K. Rowling is and showing off their
that's
collection
very
of
different.
Harry, but like
Yeah,
that's
like, yeah, and
then
it's
then yeah, I kind of
yeah.
have a problem with you.
Yeah, like, yeah, you show up, you're like, "YOLO, I'm gender critical now."
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
sorry, fuck you.
mhm.
If, like many people out there, if you have trans people in your life or have had trans people in your life, it it's like I can't get my brain around people who are so able to divorce this particular person from her words because she's so God, we're getting ahead of ourselves again. But,
Yeah, yeah,
again, it's like there are different questions you should ask yourself, like, "Should I read this?" Number 1. Should I buy it? Should I recommend it? Should I teach it new? Is it okay if I buy a used copy? Is it okay if I take one out of the library? Is it okay if I borrow one? Is it okay if I take it out of one of those little lending libraries?
yeah, yeah.
It
And to that, I would just say, let your conscience be your guide. If you are okay with walking into a Barnes& and Noble and buying a brand new copy of Harry Potter, we keep using this example, I'm sorry, it's an easy one. If you're okay with that, I've lost a ton of respect for you. If you are pulling it out of a little library on a street corner, okay, you know, do your thing, whatever, but,
you're stuck
and
at an Airbnb and you forgot your Kindle or you forgot your Kobo
yeah,
and
yeah.
this is what they've got.
And
You know,
and
I
look, there is no part of me that believes that by not buying her stuff, her books, her knickknacks, whatever, I have no, it's not gonna make a dent in her lifestyle, right? Like, she's always going to be, I don't, is she a billionaire at this point? I think she's
yeah,
a,
she's a
at least,
billionaire.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So she's
Yeah.
always going to be a billionaire, right? Like, I have no illusions that we are going to put her out on the streets. But it's not about her, it's about me, it's about you, it's about, our collective souls.
Yeah, I think that and I have many friends and family members who think that I am being way too hard here because the art justifies itself.
Mhm,
That
mhm.
and I think we should probably just roll into rolling right now.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so, like, I mean, she's obviously the big bad here. And there are people we're gonna talk about there's at least one person we're gonna talk about tonight who did something a lot worse. I let's say physically did something a lot worse, but
Mhm.
this is somebody who has taken their billions and billions of pounds and directed it towards, as I said, actively making other people's lives worse.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
at the same time, was able to gather together culture and literature and, storytelling and write some, I'll be honest, really fun books.
yeah.
I read them all as they came out. I read the first one when I was working in a used bookshop in London, and we had by that time, I think the 3rd one had just come out,
Mhm.
and somebody said, "You should read this book, Philosopher's Stone." I'm like, "Oh, that's a kid's book. I am an extremely cold 26-year-old, thank you very much." But yeah, and I'm too old for that shit. Read it, like, I don't know, like, in a day, and went went to work the next day, borrowed book 2 and book 3, which people were bringing new copies to all but they'd read it, bring it, sell it, we were shipping them but right out the door. I read all of them as they came out, every single
Sure.
one. I went to every single
I mean,
movie that
everybody
came out.
was reading them. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to every single movie as it came out. I loved it. I was deep in it. I was not writing, but reading a shit ton of Harry Potter fan fiction because I needed my fix.
Mhm.
And, which is I mean, this was probably like 2001, 2002, and I was, online. This is like how I'd already done a master's thesis that touched on fandom, so I'm like, "God, this is my jam." And I was like, "This is wonderful," and I like the story about her, that how hard she'd worked to get discovered, and single mom, writing in this cafe in Glasgow, and I was like, "God, that's a great story." These great books, this great story about, it's a chosen one. You know my feelings about chosen one books, but a lot of my feelings about chosen one books come because of Harry Potter now. Totally honest. And then the late teens, she started speaking out about transgender rights, not in the way that I would have liked somebody to speak out, about transgender rights, as in transgender people are people and they are entitled to their dignity and full expression of human self. So she said, trans women, and it's been really focused on trans women. Trans women are not real women, which is
Mhm.
patent bullshit. And, we
It
can't,
is
we,
really interesting too, by the way, like, not just JKR, but, that whole movement focuses heavily on trans women.
yeah, yeah.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
very interesting. And I think it's useful to point out here that the main actors from the films have all spoken out
Mhm, mhm,
against her. Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson especially have been
mhm,
extremely vocal.
yeah.
And Rupert Grint as well has said this is just like absolutely no. And she has said that she doesn't forgive them for saying those things.
You know, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't have JKR's forgiveness. Oh,
No,
no.
and yet she still keeps selling things. She has her, adult line of books now.
Mm, yeah.
Mother, father, I know you are listening, and I know that you have read her adult books. I love you both. Please don't read the next one. The last one I believe was seriously bloated. Like, wasn't it like 1,000 pages or something like that? And you have
Mm,
to
yeah,
wonder,
yeah.
she's so big that no editor is gonna tell her no.
Right. Uh,
Harry Potter is so woven into our culture, not just in this country and the UK, but worldwide. It's woven
yeah,
into
yeah.
culture, right?
Yeah,
It was
and
part
that's
of
why I say,
childhoods.
don't be under any illusion that you refusing to buy one of her books is gonna put her out on the street. It's just not. That's like saying, not buying a Tesla is gonna put Musk out on the streets, right? It's just not gonna happen.
No, no, I do think about
So,
I put her on a shelf in my brain with Elon Musk.
oh my god, they're like 2 peas in a
They're
pod.
together.
Yeah.
They're linked. They're there with fucking like Jordan Peterson. It just unredeemable people. So, moving on from transphobia to homophobia. Why
Yeah.
not? Orson Scott Card. I will admit that I have actually never read any Orson Scott Card, but I suspect you have.
I have read so much Orson Scott Card. I grew up on Orson Scott Card. I have very fond memories of reading Ender's Game, for example. I Yeah, I loved his books. I have not gone back and kind of reread, like, as an older adult now, I've not gone back to see how well they hold up, but from what I understand, they actually, story-wise, they actually do hold up, and they are some very good examples of, the kinda good sci-fi.
Mhm.
And it was kind of a shock to me. I think that I don't remember what I was like, I hadn't heard anything about him or something like that, and I think maybe I tell you what it was, I don't know how many people, probably none of our listeners, maybe 1 or 2, that know the website Slashdot. Slashdot, what is is news for nerds, and so if you're a computer geek like I am, you spend a lot of time on Slashdot in the early 2000s
Mhm.
and the late 90s, and I think there was probably a Slashdot post up there, and so I just went down that rabbit hole, and I was absolutely gassed to just, his some of his views, many of his views are just awful, and so, for me, once again, like, I just won't pick up another Orson Scott Card book. I don't even know if he's still writing at this point,
Believe
but
he is still writing.
is it s
I believe he
yeah.
is. I know about him from Shane, who
Mhm,
loved Ender's Game,
mhm.
and, so I also know in general what the book is about. I also know in general, like, kind of what he writes about, that he has anti-war themes and, like, protecting the self and, it's kind of progressive almost type views.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, his especially his anti-war themes, I like to think that those themes were kind of formative on me, like, growing up. I grew up in a very conservative household, so, something like Orson Scott Card's books were kinda, like, actually made me think about things like war, and, so it just blew me away. So, for example, he was a big supporter of the war on terror, And of course, nobody likes terrorism, but I think we can pretty much agree that the war on terror was great for terrorists and awful for the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah,
And so to find out he had actually been a big supporter of that,
yeah, yeah.
one of his many
One of his
failures
many.
to be a good human being.
He also was a member of the board of directors of the National Organization for Marriage, which is one of
Yeah.
those conservative organizations which sounds all like touchy feely on the outside and is like
Mhm.
big fat fascist on the inside.
Right,
They
right.
campaigned
That's
against
how you
same
get to
sex
Handmaid's
marriage.
Tale, right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They campaigned against same sex marriage. They were involved in out here in California with the passage of Prop 8, which what was awful. And he published, anti-sodomy articles and said that, people who homosexual men should be, prosecuted,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they engaged in
Right,
sodomy. I mean,
right.
it just awful, and it was so bad. His homophobia was so bad, and this is a note I have for myself. There was enough fan backlash that DC Comics ended up canceling a proposed Adventures of Superman title with him as the writer, right? But at the same
Yeah.
time, not everyone is separating art from the artist with him because he has received multiple awards for his young adult writing.
Mhm, mhm.
This Margaret A. Edwards Award in 2008, which is an award for artists who help adolescents understand themselves and their role in society. And they actually said that his personal views shouldn't diminish the impact of the Enders series because of its anti-war
Mhm,
stance.
mhm.
And, I mean, that's certainly a take, but it's really complicated. Like, what do you do with it with an artist who holds beliefs that you really agree with and also beliefs that you think are disgusting?
Yeah, yeah. And again, I just think everybody's gotta make their own decisions, and, if I see you walk into a Barnes& and Noble and buy an Orson Scott Card book, yeah, I'm assuming you have the knowledge, in this scenario that I'm just inventing out of whole cloth, that, you know who he is, you know what he stands for, you go and you spend money on his book at a Barnes& and Noble. Yeah, I'm gonna think less of you. It's probably not gonna hit me as hard as, JKR, but still,
Yeah.
it's,
This is an
go to your
opportunity,
library.
go to your library, yeah. It is you should in general. It is
Although even that, if you are checking out Orson Scott Card books, then that signals to the library that,
you
they might
wanna
wanna
read
buy
more.
more,
Yeah,
right? And
and
so, I'm
he's
not even on
alive.
board with that 100. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah,
alive, you're sending him money. Even
yeah,
when authors get paid from library book purchases.
yeah.
So,
Get it at a garage sale.
or don't,
Or
like
do or don't. There's
yeah,
so many good books
it's
out there.
it's it's hard he's still alive, right?
I
So when
know.
you're
Yeah,
buying his stuff, you're
yeah.
sending him money, and he's sending that money to the
Mhm,
National
mhm.
Organization for Marriage, which is run by zealots.
Yeah, yeah.
It is again, sorry for being super woke. Woke meaning I am a functioning member of society who thinks that humans should be allowed to live their lives in ways that do not hurt other people.
Mhm.
Why do I say this as a married person for the 3rd time? I don't care. I don't care if 2 women marry each other, 2 men marry each other. Are they happy? Do they treat each
Yeah,
other
why should
well?
you care? Yeah.
Uh, you know,
At the
it
very
is
least, it's none of your business, right? But
it's not my
yes, I
business.
I
They
like to see people who are happy
Yeah, I
together.
do too. I mean, they always say, like, you can't
Yeah.
look inside a marriage, right? It is so why is that any different for gay people and the straights? There isn't because we're all humans. Again, BLF, pro-human.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right. So let's turn to somebody who's dead. Cheery.
They can't
Uh,
sue us.
yeah, I mean, look, this is not only in a celebration of the 4th of July, our 250th birthday, it also will have been Canada Day when this drops. And having just found out that I am a Canadian citizen, oh, Canada. I will be celebrating my first Canada Day this year. I don't know what I'll be doing. Maybe I'll find some poutine. We are not going to be speaking about a Canadian author. I believe that there are no Canadian authors on this list. Again, Canada, pat yourself on the back.
Yep, you got away with it again,
Got
Canada.
this pesky connects. So, Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, beloved children's author, certainly by me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. And also an anti-Semite. Whoops. Oopsie. So, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, Matilda, The Twits. I could go on and on. I read all of them. I consumed them.
Yeah, I did
All of
too.
them. Just
I did too.
inhaled them.
I have particularly fond memories of James and the Giant Peach. And this was before a movie ever came out. I mean, I was a kid, and I mean, I just remember absorbing that book. Like, I think it was one of the first times that I had ever actually, like, felt myself kind of fall into a book. Like,
Mhm.
I felt it viscerally. So, yes, this one, kinda hurts a lot.
It's
Yeah.
hard. I
Yeah.
also grew up watching Tales of the Unexpected, based on his short story. I read so many of his short stories as a kid. When my dad was like, "Oh, you like those kind of short stories? Like, here's Ray Bradbury, and here's Roald Dahl. You already like Roald Dahl, like, read his grown-up stuff." It was so, dark and funny and adult, and even his children's books were dark and funny and adult.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have reread Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as an adult and still enjoyed it tremendously. And yet, kind of a shit as a human being, not just because he has documented anti-Semitic writings, but also, he was cruel to his family members in a very dismissive kind of look.
Mhm.
If you're not British and you know British people, especially British people of a certain class, you know the type I'm talking about. They may not even mean it, but they know how to do it. They can be casually cruel in a way that can cut and hurt and maim. And he did it to people he cared about. So his anti-Semitism was known by a lot of people. I didn't know about it as a kid. He wrote in the 80s that the US is dominated by great Jewish financial institutions.
Yeah,
And
yeah, he was full
came
in on
came
all of
in
it.
right out in 1990 and said that he had become anti-Semitic.
Yeah, actually declared himself anti-Semitic, yeah.
It ju-
So, yeah, we're not talking about 1 or 2 little problematic quotes
no,
or, like
no.
or somebody who kinda changed later in life. No, this man, you know, died a professed anti-Semite,
Yeah. And you
and
don't see it in his books, in his children's books, at
you don't
least.
see it in
You
yeah.
don't
Yeah
see it at
yeah, I
all.
can't speak for his, like, short stories or his other
I
writers,
don't
but yeah,
recall.
yeah.
It's been a while, but, like, I read his memoir when I don't know, maybe I was, like, 14 or something, Going Solo, and I really enjoyed it, but I don't remember, but I was 14, and a lot of stuff just went over my head, and
And so this is probably the first one that we've talked about that I think that, you know, y we're starting to get to a point now is like, can you separate the art from the let's talk about his children's books, right?
Mhm.
Let's just set
Yeah,
the other
I think that's yeah.
can you set the like, would you give your child a copy of James and the Giant
I
Peach?
probably would.
I mean, so when my children were of that age, I didn't know about Roald Dahl, but I think, if I had a child now, yes, I probably would.
Mhm. Yeah,
I don't feel
I would.
great about that, except it's such I mean, his children's books are such fantastic books, and like you say, his views don't show up in these books,
He's
right?
also dead.
And he's
He's
also
also dead,
dead.
like, super
Yeah,
dead.
yeah, uh,
Like,
36 years ago, right?
something like that. It's
I think
been
he
a
died in
while.
1990, yeah.
So, it's been a while. His family members have apologized
Mhm,
publicly,
mhm.
although some people have noted that that was tied to a Netflix deal, potentially.
Yeah, yeah.
But, his family did come
Capitalism,
out.
man, gets you every
Yay.
time.
Yeah, they will. But the messages in those books about perseverance,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the underdog, getting his or her day,
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
the power of a child in an adult society. These were all messages I needed to hear as a peculiar
Yeah.
child,
Yeah. Mhm.
and they meant a lot to me. Maybe I'm a hypocrite. I don't know. I mean, I'm not
Well,
Jewish, but
what I
it's
yes, and, that I'm sure, like, that would be very informing on my opinion, if I were Jewish, right? Because I'm not
yeah.
obviously either.
No, I'm not Jewish, and yet, here I am saying, like, I have, all these trans people that I know, that who I've been friends with, and I'm out here, like, flying the flag and
Mhm.
just going, like, "Fuck JKR, fuck this shit, fuck Orson Scott Card. I'm not gay." But I probably have, like, more Jewish friends in my life, and family
Mhm.
members
Mhm.
in my life than I do gay people or trans people, certainly trans people. So, is it a reflection on me or is it a reflection on distance?
Well, like I noted at the beginning of the show, time has a lot to do with it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, who knows where we'll be, let's say 50 years from now. I doubt that J.K. Rowling will be the boogeyman that she is now. She will have some very rich relatives still, I guess, and
Mhm.
hopefully her views die with her.
I hope
But
those relatives take that money and funnel it into excellent causes.
wouldn't that be fantastic?
I
I would
wanna
love to
see,
see that.
like,
Yeah.
them become
Yeah.
the Mackenzie Scotts
Yeah.
of,
Because then it will have been
you know
worth it, I mean,
No, I don't know if
still a
it'll
lot of yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah.
not, but, like, there's also another wrinkle to the doll story. They in a few years ago, Puffin Books said that they were hiring sensitivity writers to go through Doll's works and, address some of the, like, racism, what they thought of as let me start. Okay. They they had sensitive they had yeah. Sorry. Puffin Books had sensitivity readers go through the books and address possible issues relating to race and gender and sex and characterization and like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach and Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Witches, like all the stuff that are these texts to us. People did not like it. Salman Rushdie said this was like an act of like cultural vandalism or something.
Mhm.
And they published the revised versions, but also at the same time, they kept the original versions out there, which I look, people write stuff that goes out of favor. That's just kind of how the world works.
Yeah.
Removing it changes the story, especially if you're doing it like it's like to suit modern tastes and mores. Those are going to change because that's what culture is.
Yeah, and here's the thing that, we really, think of writing, we think of books as art, but, books is a business, right? And so when you've got a publisher doing something like this, it's almost inevitably for a business reason. They wanna sell books, right? They wanna
Yeah.
put books on shelves and they want people walking out of a store with them. And so I think that's a legitimate factor, that you've gotta decide, and especially so if the copyright holder is the family's on board with it, and as long as you're not, really just going whole hog on this and turning it into something that it was never intended to be, I'm not sure I have a big problem with that. If you want to, appeal to a modern audience, I'll give you an example, I grew up on Hardy Boy books too, right?
Yeah.
And
Nancy Drew. Yeah. For me.
and I had inherited this set of Hardy Boys books. I think my parents did buy them from, like, a garage sale or something. So they were old when I had them, right? And so the books I was reading, I think they were, what, written in the '50s and
30s?
'60s?
Uh,
Or was it even earlier than
I'll
that?
look.
I just remember reading these Hardy Boy books and thinking, "These are old." Right? Like, the
Oh,
language was
yeah.
old-timey, the technology in them was old-timey, and I remember that, whoever was publishing them, started modernizing them.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of on board with that, because if you wanna sell the Hardy Boys, you gotta modernize it.
Okay, so 1927 was when the
Oh
first
my
Hardy Boys
god.
book was
Yeah.
released.
Okay.
But there's a difference. right? So if you look at books from the 20s, what are we thinking about? We're thinking about Gatsby, we're thinking about
Mhm.
Sun Also Rises, we're thinking about that. We're thinking about art.
Right. Hardy Boys was, like, mass market, yeah.
It's commercial literature, and,
Mhm,
there's nothing
mhm.
wrong with that, but in order but commercial literature is meant to be accessible. That's a selling point. If it's no longer accessible, then it loses its appeal. So if you need to bring Frank and Joe into the 21st century. Maybe they're not saying skibbity toilet or 6-7, but but you
Right.
they can text, right? They can use the internet. They can, use WhatsApp. It doesn't change the story that much if they were communicating in other ways. Whereas something like changing, the sun also rises so that they can be texting each other. Maybe not a great idea. Maybe changes it because
Yeah,
it's not saying that one has greater or lesser kind of like cultural worth. One may have greater cachet, but worth, kind of like they do different things. They're different types of books, and that's okay. I think modernizing the Hardy Boys, nobody's heart is gonna break probably, but
sure, sure.
they did it for the Hardy Boys Mysteries, which you probably watched. You were of an age, my brother watched
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely, with, Sean Cassidy,
Sean
and
Cassidy. Yeah,
I
I don't
can't
remember who
remember
the
the
other
other
one was.
ones. Yeah.
I don't know, but to do Ron Ron, Sean Cassidy came and played in New Haven at the Coliseum, and my brother had my mom. I don't know if my dad was there, but I went along. So my first concert, I think it was 3, maybe 4, was Sean Cassidy. That's how old I am, people.
Wow. You are
So,
so rock and roll.
totally, totally rock and roll. I think this is a more nuanced one, and again, cancel me, just go for it. Okay. So, look, the list is very long, and I'm gonna list, 6 others that we chopped for time because, my god, this list could be long.
Mhm.
Marion Zimmer Bradley did not wanna touch this one. If you're curious, go look it up for yourself, it's
Yeah,
terrible.
we actually we had a little discussion before the show about whether we were gonna dive into Marion Zimmer Bradley. I will just say this one really broke my heart because I loved Mists of Avalon. She's a horrible, horrible, horrible human being, and she's dead also. Thank God for small favors. That's all I'm gonna say about Marion Zimmer Bradley. If you don't know about her, Google her at your own peril. She's just a very filthy, disgusting human being.
Yep,
Anyway,
yep.
that's
Alice
all I got to say about that.
Alice Munro. As I embrace my
Mm,
Canadian roots, Alice Munro, again, go look it up. Not
mhm,
great. Philip Roth, class A shit.
mhm.
I just picked up a Claire Bloom's autobiography, Leaving a Doll's House, which I've wanted to read for some time, although I know it's going to break my heart because I love Claire Bloom. Philip Roth is a piece of shit and a wonderful writer. A really wonderful writer. I've enjoyed his books. This is hard. Juno Diaz, brilliant writer. Me Too shit.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Also, we got some more Me Too shit. Sherman Alexie, which was terrible because there are not enough native voices out there being
Right.
published to and being elevated. There are too many who are cannot find a home with with an agent or with a publishing house. And there is so much interesting native literature out there. And there are so many goddamn white folks who want to like write about native culture without being native themselves.
Yeah.
And those things get published without letting, these own voices speak for themselves. Just
Let
that's
me
a
just put in
heartbreaking one.
my usual plug, The Buffalo Hunter,
Yeah.
by Stephen Graham Jones.
Yeah.
Read this book.
It's in
It's
my
horror, by the
TBR.
way. If you don't read horror, don't read this book.
Yep.
But if you read horror, read this book.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
continue.
And Garrison Keillor, at one point, a beloved national institution in the
I
United
know,
States
I know.
with a Prairie Home Companion.
God, I went and saw him live. Yeah.
He was, he did a lot of sexually inappropriate shit towards women, and, then Minnesota Public Radio canned him, and, it wasn't just a one-off thing, it was a whole years long, many things.
Like his entire career from what I
Yeah,
understand.
the
Yeah.
entire career, and then he said essentially, like, the usual, like, "It was mutual," or "It
Mhm.
was just a little thing," or "Don't be oh, yeah, like, the whole, like, "Can't be friends with women.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
dangerous."
Yeah.
Like,
So
"Hello.
gross.
Hello, my name is Megan Thompson Mann. This is my best friend, Kirk Rafferty. We're
Yeah.
able to be
Yeah.
friends."
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and he's
God,
still out
yeah.
there performing for audiences who want to see him.
Mhm.
This I always thought it was a little corny, and I was just like, "Eh, whatever." But,
But
it
that was the
also
appeal. Yeah.
but that was part of the appeal, and, what I was more interested in listening to Prairie Home Companion for was all of the cool people that he had on. So many amazing artists, so many
Mhm.
amazing
Mhm.
musicians and writers
And
and
now
cultural
and now it just makes me
commentators.
sad to think about what they had to tolerate.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Fuck it. Fuck them. Fuck them. Okay. So this is our gift to you. The very worst. Very worst in terms of physical stuff. This one is heartbreaking, I think, for a lot of people. It was heartbreaking for me. When I first read about it, I didn't want to believe it. And then I read the very in-depth article about it and realized that just because you're a genius, as Picasso shows, you can also be a fucking piece of shit who ruins people's lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, and queers and dears, we bring you Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, that was a I was the same way. I did not want to believe it.
Oh, yeah.
I was sort of I was really hoping that this was kind of the exception to I mean, you just don't wanna believe it. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was hoping before I read any of the details that it was a kind of Aziz Ansari moment, where
mhm.
he had I'd heard that he was in an open marriage and like I thought maybe it was something like it was a bit of a squicky moment where he was just being,
Yeah,
like, a little
maybe he's just being
too
weird, right? Yeah.
he was being a little weird, and she didn't have, like, any tolerance, which she's absolutely entitled to do. I thought, "Maybe it's like that?" It's like this is my, like,
No, yeah.
internalized misogyny is
Mhm.
that I immediately thought that, is that,
Yeah.
maybe I say this as somebody who has been subjected to nothing as bad as this, but plenty of beyond squick moments in my life from men,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
still was like, maybe not." Because I I mean, I really love Sandman. Like like, I loved Good Omens, like, oh god,
I
like
mean, Coraline, it just the
yeah,
list is endless. I was a
Stardust.
massive Neil Gaiman fan, and needless to say, I'm no longer a Neil Gaiman
No,
fan.
no.
He can
I'm
go
just
get
looking up, I'm
fucked,
making sure that I
and
don't have anything left on my shelves, I think it's all gone now. Yeah, it's all gone. No, that's Neil Stephenson, that's okay. So,
yeah,
as far as I know, Neil Stephenson's still fine.
yeah, so yeah,
But so I will put a link if I can get I still have a subscription to New York Magazine. If I can get a gift link, I will put it in the show notes with a lot of like do not read if you are sensitive
mhm,
kind of warnings. But if you need to read something to make it more real, and you're able to.
yeah,
I had to
and
read it in
just a
6.
caution, like,
Yeah.
if you don't know what he did, it's worse than you imagine.
I had to read it in, like, 5 or 6
Yeah,
sittings
yeah,
because and, I mean, it's a long article, but it's not that long. I couldn't take it because the what it spelled out and I will make it clear that these are still only allegations, but was so shocking. To be clear, it was sexual violence in a situation where he and his, then wife had a nanny who asserts that he sexually assaulted her within, like, hours of them meeting
mhm,
and
mhm,
kept demanding sexual favors, terrible, disgusting things that I genuinely wish I had never read.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
just because it was about him, but, like, just period, I wish I had never read.
yeah, yeah.
And they've been s they sue he and his wife do not get me started on Amanda Palmer, that we're already running long. I have my own beef with her. It's totally separate. They were sued in federal court in the US. This all happened in New Zealand. Let me just point that out. But they were sued in the US, and those lawsuits were I believe that there was a federal and a state case. I know there's definitely a federal case, and those cases were dismissed on jurisdictional grounds, but there are appeals that are going on, and there's also been litigation in New Zealand that I know less about. Gaiman has been basically treated like a pariah for the most part, which
Yeah.
I God, I thought they were gonna do another Rolling with him, and I was terrified. But, Good Omens got, canceled.
Got axed, yep. Yep.
The series was on Amazon. Really loved it. Bye. Uh, Anansi Boys also by the last season of The Sandman, the press tour, gone. He was working
Yeah,
on something with
I
Disney,
watched the first
dead.
season of Sandman, loved it, and I
Yeah,
think that's when the all this stuff came out, and I have not seen the 2nd season, I can't watch it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do it. His comic adaptation with Dark Horse Comics, canceled. He was working on something with Disney, canceled. Good, good. And then he has proceeded to go on this whole campaign of, "She's a big fat liar," "Women be
Well,
like
he just
that."
keeps digging himself deeper, yeah.
Yeah, obviously this is all untrue. She's crazy, the
Mhm,
usual hysterical
mhm.
woman bullshit, saying that I've got tons of evidence that prove that she's wrong. Where's the evidence? Like, if you've got all this stuff that proves she's wrong, where is it? Okay, yeah, we're not in court, but like if you have one thing, look, even I don't want to get into the whole Blake Lively thing, which I did follow very closely, but stuff leaked out about what was going on between her and Justin Baldoni in terms of documents. They leaked out. Where's your leak, Neil?
Yeah, yeah.
Where's your leak, right? And he says he's working on a new book that's going to be super cool and super big. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Mm. Yep.
And, I thought it was very interesting that he was in the middle of doing all sorts of things, and that didn't stop all of these big studios and smaller outfits from just saying, "Absolutely not." But what happens, and I think it's kind of interesting with Gaiman because he had a lot of non-book stuff going on with him. So he
Right.
had a lot of television and film going on. So when you're a writer, yeah, okay, maybe your agent is gonna, depend on you, especially if you're somebody as big as him for making some money. But it's not gonna be a shit ton of money. What about these productions? All of these people people who just are doing their fucking jobs, the sound guys,
Mhm.
the gaffers, the editors, the people who do craft services who depend on these productions. In LA, our economy has shrunk a lot because of productions moving outside of LA to other states and to Canada and other places abroad. But also AI bullshit
Mhm.
is affecting things. So when you have these big marquee productions that then have to be canceled because the guy who's so closely associated with them is a alleged rapist, fuck you too, because you're taking food out of people's
Right,
mouths. Fuck
right.
you. You selfish bastard. Just horrible. Sorry. Sorry for all
No,
the
no,
swearing.
you have nothing to be sorry about, but I'm staying quiet because you're saying everything that I'm thinking, so yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck him, fuck him. I'm doing the finger guns right now, as well. Fuck him, fuck him, fuck him. Yeah, so, I think it's time to, lighten the mood a little bit. I mean, it still isn't great.
Bring it a little closer to home, right?
We're gonna bring it a little closer to home. We're gonna do a little bit of a palate cleanser. We
Yeah.
could do a timestamp here perhaps when you are done editing. This is where we go into Hot Goss.
Let let's do it.
Yeah, this is just your regular, friendly neighborhood dumbassery from the internet. Problematic only in the sense that, people are awful, but not in but more in a more generalized way. So as we know, AI is the devil, and it's not very well liked in writerly and bookish circles online.
Mhm. Or at least the ones we travel in, yeah.
That is true. The algorithm only gives me, that this particular slice. Back to threads. Love you, love you, love you. With a poster who said that she had 2 agents put her manuscript into AI as she was querying the book, to find an agent for subrights. So, like, audio rights and
Mhm.
2 of them put her book into AI. She admitted that one of them did say it on their website that this would happen, and she said, "You know what? That's on me.
Mhm.
I missed it." The other one told her, "I did it so I could see if there was a marketing angle and, which would allow me essentially to decide whether or not I wanted to take you on." That was exposed at the end.
Yeah.
That's shit. This is also we Kirk and I talk about this all the time because we see it all like, way too often. People saying, "I think that this agent put this book through, an LLM
Yeah. Yeah.
because," or the notes that I got, the rejection letter I got back, like, kinda reads like AI. Again, no AI witch hunting, but
Yeah.
come on.
And that's the thing, you can't make an outright accusation, but if you've ever gotten a personalized a so-called personalized rejection and it feels like AI,
Yeah,
you kinda know that your manuscript had been run through AI. Nothing actionable you can do because you can't really prove
yeah,
it, but, you just know, right? I think this is happening a lot
yeah.
right now, and I think a lot of agents are not copping to it.
I I agree with you, and I understand to some extent the kind of pressures that agents are under. They are so stressed out these days. They are getting inundated with thousands of manuscripts that they have to sort through. If they don't have an assistant or an intern, they're doing it themselves. Even if they're only open for like short periods of time throughout the year, they still are getting way more than they can
Mhm,
handle. They feel that they have to keep performing. And as a result, nobody has to know. And for all we know, some of the savvier agents out there are doing just that, but taking the output from the LLM and massaging it into their own tone.
right. And here's the thing too, so even the savvier ones are deluding themselves. No LLM is going to be able to tell you the quality of a book, and we know that because we've seen the shit that LLMs write.
Mhm.
And so if that's what they're writing, they're not going to find the next bestseller.
No.
They're just
Yeah.
not. They're and so for an agent to abdicate that responsibility, I think they really are just hurting them. I mean, they're hurting authors, but they are hurting themselves too, by putting any kind of weight
Mhm.
onto what they're getting out of these LLMs.
It's also tarnishing their reputations within the agent
Yeah.
community. That
'Cause all it takes
Yeah.
is one slip up, and that's it. Like, they've lost their
Oh, yeah.
reputation, they've lost their career.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and, there have been a lot of agents, who have said, "Do not use it. I do not use it. I never will use it. I am super clear about it." And if you look at these agents' posts on Threads or on Instagram or Blue Sky, these look like, hand-spun posts. These look like human posts to me.
Mhm, mhm.
And again, could be wrong. I don't know. I mean, that's the big old what if of it all. And to be fair, these 2 agents did disclose that they used AI. One before,
Yeah,
one
and
after.
one after.
They didn't lie about it.
It does gall me, though, that the other agent did it after.
Yeah.
Like, if you need to give me that decision as
Yeah,
the
yeah.
author,
And
because I
there
would have told
yeah.
you no.
Yeah. And I know that somebody said that they saw on Query Tracker an agent who said that they would put the manuscript through AI. And that's a personal choice, for a querying author, whether or not they feel comfortable with it. I think there is a real misconception about what LLMs are doing with our content that we put into them. Most of them, especially these very large language models like ChatGPT and Claude, they don't want some rando's words. I'm
Right.
sorry.
The big ones, so, yeah, the ones that you mentioned, they are not training on your manuscript. I believe we've actually talked about this in the past, but I actually do believe them because if they were training on everything that was being fed into them, their training databases would become
Yeah.
garbage.
Absolutely.
So I do believe that,
Yeah,
feeding your manuscript into ChatGPT is not training the model. I
yeah,
concede this. I still don't like the, people doing it,
yeah.
but I concede that yes,
If you
Anthropic and ChatGPT are yeah.
if you consent to it and you know that it's one of these larger models, you probably have less to worry about. Like, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? So
Right.
they've gotta sell these products. They gotta make them, at least somewhat reliable in
And
some
my
ways.
concern isn't, that my manuscript would be feeding, LLM for data because let's be honest, the your manuscript gets fed into an LLM as soon as it's published.
Yeah,
That's when they do it, right?
yeah,
My concern is an agent relying on the information being
yeah,
output from this, and
yeah.
so I am concerned that, this LLM could just decide that my book is, not does not really fit the genre that I wrote it in,
Mhm.
and the agent could just blindly believe that and say, "Sorry."
It's it's like AI job interview or like,
Mhm.
like the whole thing where they're just, putting people's CVs, resumes, they put it in, you're not matching exactly what they say, bye. But let's say you're a writer and you express yourself in ways that are more accurate but aren't hitting the buzzwords, right? And what are you doing? Then you're expected to write AI to please an AI, but you're a human trying to work with other humans. And it's the same thing with agents. And what are you paying agents for? It's not just to sell your book to a publisher, it's their critical capacities,
Mhm.
their
Mhm.
ability to give you feedback on your work. So what are you paying them all of that, commission for? Why? So eh, I will come out and say I believe most agents are not doing this. I think this is a
Yeah,
weird
no,
situation.
I think it's a
Yeah.
very small
Yeah.
handful, yeah.
Very, very small, but it's not the first time that I've seen this, and I keep seeing it. So, agents, if you're listening, number 1, I am still looking for representation. Number 2,
Yeah,
reach out to
please
me.
read my manuscript.
I will be like those people who are on threads like, "I'm looking for a literary agent to represent me. So this is my book." And I'm like, "Girl, it doesn't work that way." But, number 2, like, you know what to do. You're good at your job.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Go be great at your job. Some days
And
are
if
shit,
you
some days are good.
if you are going to use AI, um, I don't like it, but if you're gonna do it, you must disclose it so that writers have the choice
Mhm.
of deciding to query you or not based on that.
Yeah.
I
Some people are gonna be
it's
cool. It's
yeah,
fine.
it really is the professional thing to do. Let them know up front.
Yeah. So, that was a refreshing, kind of palate cleanser, kind of like a sorbet at the
Yeah.
end of this particularly nasty, meal that we had. I took a class in high school, my first year, called "What is Art?" Last day in class, somebody raised their hand and said, "So, can you answer the question, what is art?" And she said, "You should have figured that out along the way," which meant that she had no fucking clue, which is fine. I will say that the question, "Can you separate art from the artist?" is again, you should have figured that out along the way. Also bullshit. I don't have an answer to that question. And like, what is art? It is a matter of personal taste, comfort.
Yeah.
You you know what is right for you, but think about what your consumption does.
Yeah, and I said it earlier, it is not about the artist, it's about you. And if you're still comfortable with supporting a very problematic artist, living or dead, that's on you.
Elvis, that's another one. I still like Elvis.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
What really disappointed me, Meatloaf, not the dish, but the singer. The man died from COVID. He was a COVID denier,
Mhm.
and he
Mhm.
died from COVID.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this was the dude, the bat out of hell dude, died as a COVID denier, you dumb son of a bitch.
I it it it's
I love Meatloaf. I freaking love his music.
it's reminded me because there was a story in this episode about Meatloaf showing up at a book signing wearing white gloves like a Disney character. I was telling Kirk before that I listened to an amazing episode of Last Podcast on the Left where they were interviewing Stephen King and his son Joe Hill about their work habits, about what it's like to be a writer in a family of writers, craft book signings with Meatloaf, wearing white gloves. I've got about 15 minutes left to go. This is a fantastic episode. If you I know some people are very annoyed by Last Podcast on the Left. I am not. It is worth listening to it because it's not a lot of Henry Zebrowski screaming. It's a genuinely good interview. I'll put a link in it. Listen to it. Just dropped this morning. So if you want to hear more about
Finally, some
Meatloaf,
writing stuff.
writing stuff. Writing things.
All
You
right.
y and next week, talking about writing things, we're going to be, talking about writing software in depth. We've talked a little bit about writing software before, but,
Mhm.
it's been very much on both of our minds recently as we've been thinking about possibly jumping ship from our own platforms, and we're gonna weigh up some of the big guys, talk about some of the smaller ones, talk about some of the noodlings that we've done on
Mhm.
our own, and, maybe you'll get something out of it, maybe it I can promise you, and I don't do it like to do a lot of, guarantees. I can promise you it will be a lot less of a bummer than today's was.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
and, if you need to go have a lie down after listening to this, like, I don't blame you. I need to have a lie down. You can find us. We're Badlit Friends on all of the socials everywhere. We are Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky. We are on YouTube. I ensured today that it was published and stayed published. So,
Mhm.
yay. Spotify as well, Apple Podcasts. Continue to like, subscribe, comment, share, yada, yada. Find us on the socials and like and subscribe. But until next time, we will see you then.
Bye.